Hello, this is Raphael, also known as Raphaham of the Grin Brothers, and today I'm going to be doing a bit of a different video discussing The Wandering Village. So, this game was gifted to us by a friend and fellow content creator, Beabop, partly on the principle that we were good friends, but also partly on the principle of being fellow content creators. So, content shall be created. Don't know if it's going to be good, because this video in of itself is a bit of an experiment. What happened was I recorded the first 2 hours of my first run in similar fashion to how I normally do the content that I make by myself. And it was proving difficult to make an interesting video out of. Not necessarily fault of the game, more so fault of me. But it turns out that making an interesting and engaged video out of the type of game that it is a bit more difficult when you have no idea what you're doing. You're playing on the easiest difficulty so you can actually learn how the game works. So, because I spent so much of the footage kind of just in deep thought rather than being entertaining, which is ideally what I want to do, I got so far through shambling together something, and then I thought, what if I condensed this down into a completely different type of video and just make it like a short 10-15 minute thing where I just talk about the game, my first impressions, how my first run had been going, like where I left off, and like stuff like that, how I feel about the game based solely off that first impression and what I think it's capable of. So I suppose that means I should actually get into the part where I start talking about the game. I don't have a script either, so this is going to be a lot of trial and error, something completely new, scriptless, winging it, but at the very least, I hope to shamble together something that is both somewhat entertaining but also informative. But first step first is to actually talk about what the game is and let people know what it is before I start talking about how I feel about it and my run and everything.
Driven from our homes by the toxic spores, we kept wandering, looking for shelter. But not in our wildest dreams did we imagine what we would find.
So, let's actually talk about what The Wandering Village is. The Wandering Village is a PC game developed by Raphaham Studios and is a city building sim, primarily. It does have some interesting ways of going about this, though. It's not just a normal, here's your village, build it, avoid disaster kind of game. Keep people alive, yada yada yada. The twist kind of involves the story of the game, which is pretty simple. You start off as a small tribe, and the world is slowly being torn apart and infected by some sort of plague thing. I don't remember the name of it. And your villagers, trying to escape from this nasty evil plague, come across a mystical, magical, fanciful, wonderful creature, however you wish to describe it, known as the onbu. I hope I'm getting that right. Let me just double check. Yes. It is known as the onbu. It is a big dude, chunky, massive, absolute unit. And you get to live on it, as long as the two of you get along. And this is where the twist comes in. The onbu will travel across the map, because staying in one place is dangerous in this world. And I believe there's like slight elements where the map is different each time. I'm not 100% sure. Random events do occur. And you can make decisions to help decide where you want to go. You can only see so much of a map at any time, so you don't necessarily know what's going to be further ahead, just what is a little bit ahead. And so a large part of the gimmick revolves around your village and their relationship with the onbu, keeping both people happy and alive, as well as the onbu happy and alive. Because if there's not a good synergy between your villagers and the onbu, you can't make decisions on what to do, because the onbu won't listen to you. It doesn't respect you, it doesn't trust you, it's going to do its own thing. And also, if the onbu dies, you die, because it's your home. Most resources will generate on the back of the onbu, so you can get trees, stone, berries, and you can make little wells to collect water, stuff like that. But you can also send people out into the world to try and find stuff. Occasional events include little bits like being able to recruit more villagers, recruiting villagers that are currently sick, which runs the potential of introducing disease into your people. But if you've got a doctor, you can heal them up, get them back to health. Bits like that. You know, various bits and pieces. Now, keep in mind, I didn't get that far in the game, so there's probably a lot more to it than what I'm describing. But this is the general gist of the game. There is a skill tree to unlock new buildings. Skill tree is probably not the right term in a city builder. Some I'm going to use. It gets you new buildings and new options to do different things. Some of them are simple as being able to pet the onbu, which helps raise trust, being able to feed the onbu, or being able to drill a hole in the onbu to get resources, which of course doesn't make it very happy. It's all about maintaining that balance between your village's needs, the onbu's trust, and the onbu's needs, as well as also not running headfirst into a forest full of plague and everyone dying. So it's an interesting balance of things, and it can definitely be interesting seeing how different people play differently. That is a right sentence? It just sounds wrong to say out loud. But it is a sentence that makes sense, I hope. So, because, some people, like me, will try and treat the onbu well and keep it happy. I did make some mistakes that made it not trust me, though. And other people will just happily keep the onbu at the bare minimum whilst drilling holes into it, etc, etc. But that's the general gist of the game. General idea of how it goes and what it is. I've already said that. I said this wasn't going to go well, and it's going not well. But now's the point where I talk about my personal experience with the game. Experience makes it sound like I've had a lot of time with the game. My personal first impression of having played the game, and kind of how that run went and such. So let's talk about my experience and first impression of the game. I played, I believe, about 2 hours on the easiest difficulty, because it said it was advised for your first playthrough, and it gives you an actual tutorial, which I figured would be helpful, because otherwise I would be guessing at everything. Now, the easiest difficulty does also make things less dangerous for you, so it gives you more time to kind of build your village up before things start to go wrong, which is great for learning, but does make it less interesting to make a video out of, which is probably why I struggled making a video out of it. Because in a weird way, you kind of want stuff to happen so you have something to react to. Whereas in easiest difficulty, at least for the 2 hours I played, most of it was smooth sailing. Which I suppose would be nice, but I also kind of wanted to see more stuff. That being said, it very much helped me to learn the game. So I would suggest doing the tutorial, or even just looking up a tutorial and then just going for normal difficulty until you get comfortable, and then you can go for the harder difficulty if you so desire. I don't know how tough they are in comparison, but with the type of game it is, I feel losing a run isn't necessarily that much of a problem, because most of your runs, if not all of them, are going to be different each time, which is part of the fun to it, really. In my little experience, I focused a lot of my research into trying to make my onbu happy and trust me, and to be able to keep the onbu functioning, because my villagers weren't really struggling, to be honest. I managed to get things going on their end pretty quick. That being said, my inability to read did result in me tearing up parts of the onbu for stone by accident, because I thought they were just big rocks. But no, the onbu grows spikes to give you a renewable source of rock from its body at the cost of losing trust. So I could actually issue my onbu to go anywhere for quite a while, because I basically tore part of its shell out, which, fun fact, turtles and tortoises can feel their shell. It is a part of them, so any damage it receives, they do feel. So I can't imagine it felt too good for the onbu. That being said, I was very interested in the potential of the game and the potential of runs. Now, if I were to play again, I would probably just go straight for a normal, start a fresh save and just go for a normal difficulty, just to make it more interesting. Because I like more stuff happening. It does make it more stressful, but that's part of the fun of it. For me, I don't want the run to go on forever. I want stuff to happen. That's what makes those type of games fun to me. I guess I'm kind of viewing it like I do with roguelites and roguelikes, where repeated runs with different encounters are more entertaining than one really long run. In most situations, there's kind of like a certain time that most games you get a feel for, like, yeah, that's a good time for a run to be fun and eventful without it becoming tedious or boring. Like, there's only so many hours I can spend on one run of Bindings of Isaac or Risk of Rain before I start to lose my mind. With that said, I did enjoy the game. I do want to give it another go and play more of it. It's just a matter of finding the time and also kind of the energy, because there's a lot of other games that I've been playing and that have interested me, that have just caught my attention more. But if you like building sims and you want something a bit different to just building and managing a city, which I suppose in the end ultimately is, it's just your city also happens to be a living creature that you interact with. And then there's also having to pay attention to the overworld and the map to know where you're going, what kind of things are going to be ahead, because different biomes have, like, different effects. If you're in a desert, for example, you're not going to be able to get water from the air or from rain. You have to rely on cacti. Things like that. And of course, certain food won't grow very well in colder conditions. But I managed to get... I was on easy mode, so it should be expected. I managed to get things running pretty quick and pretty smooth. My village looked like a mess. But, it did the job. So, that's all that really matters. It's the type of game I feel that definitely has a slow start at first and builds up into being more intensive because more people... I mean, I guess it's the same with all city sims, really. Because you get to a point where you're struggling more to keep your people alive, managing your resources. There's only so many resources that can be on the onbu. And as you build more to stay alive, you're going to have, weirdly enough, less easy access to resources, because you no longer have the trees on the back of the onbu because your buildings are there. So you have to send people out, which means you have to have enough people to be able to send people out consistently to get more resources, so on and so forth. The main thing you're going to have resource-wise is a steady supply of food and potentially onbu food. Bits like that. But yeah, I would say I enjoyed it. It was very relaxing. Which I don't know if it's meant to be relaxing or if it's meant to be stressful. I guess that depends on the difficulty you choose to play. But on easy mode, it was very relaxing, peaceful. The onbu's nice. I like it as an idea. And I do want to play it again. At some point, I will hopefully play it again. Whether I do an update on how I feel about the game, I don't know. Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. But yeah, if you like City Sims and maybe you want to try something a bit different to just building a city. This has probably been the most rambly section of this entire video, and it's probably a complete mess. But that was to be expected, because I'm not very coherent at these things, and I've not really done this before. So, I suppose I should wrap this up. I don't really know how to end this. However, if people could comment to let me know if this video was absolutely awful or not, that'd be appreciated. Likes and subscribes and comments are all appreciated. The whole smash that like button, buddy-o shtick. You know the drill. If you've been on YouTube, you know the drill. You know how it goes. But for now, bye.